The 15-piece all-woman DIVA Jazz Orchestra has traveled the world, but they're based here in New York City, and they've taken the jazz world by storm for the past 30 years. Today, we're heading into Dizzy's Club at Jazz at Lincoln Center to meet some of the exceptional musicians behind the band. So Sherry, you are the co-founder of the DIVA Jazz Orchestra.
Yes.
Which is a band comprised of 15 women.
Yes.
How did this all come to be?
Well, our founder, primary founder, is a man named Stanley Kay, who is the former manager of the Buddy Rich Band, which is one of the most famous jazz orchestras in the history of music. And my long story short is Stanley heard me playing drums in the 90s, in 1990. And 2 years later called me up and said, "Are there other women that play like you?" Because I've lived in New York my whole life, and there's all these bands working all the time. Like every night there's big bands, and there was no women in any of them. I said, "Yes, I know so many women that are amazing players." And he, with our other co-founder, John LaBarbera, had an audition in June of 1992 at Carroll Music Studios here in New York, and 40 women came from all over the place, actually. And we put together the original 15 band members, and here we are, almost 30 years later.
I also imagine most people are not used to seeing a 15-piece band that is comprised entirely of women. What kind of reaction have you been getting?
Women almost have to come with the sense of, like, I'm going to say, playing and performing twice as good, or at a very high level, an incredibly high standard, all the time. I will tell you a funny thing that always sticks in my mind. We were on a long tour with the band all through the Midwest. The review in one of the newspapers said, "The last thing I wanted to do on Saturday night was go hear a bunch of girls play a watered down version of In the Mood." And then the next sentence was like, "I was so wrong!" Exclamation mark. So a lot of times people may even come with preconceived notions or even subconscious or unconscious biases that they have no idea why they can look at somebody and prejudge them that they can't play just based on their gender.
Well, but you are kind of iconic. Like, I think that there must be so many musicians who look up to you.
Well, one of a sidebar for me, actually, it might sound ridiculous now or in hindsight, that it wasn't even on my radar screen about the women in jazz issue, because my motive was to play with somebody who managed Buddy Rich, my idol, and then here's Stanley Kay, and to play music like that I loved, that gives me goosebumps when I think about it today, and the reason I'm a musician. After 30 years, I can look back in reflection and say we are kind of role models, not just around the country, but actually around the world. It's important, and it's helping things change.
Now, Jamie, for you have actually been part of the band for a very long time, right?
Yes, around 27 years.
What has kept you in it for that long? I've
always loved playing in big bands growing up, and when I got to New York and heard about DIVA, I couldn't believe it that there were other women that could play at a high level, and my jaw was just on the floor when I first saw DIVA and heard everyone play. I was so excited to see other women really kicking butt.
You're the youngest, or one of the youngest members of the band. What has it been like for you being part of this band?
It's meant a lot to me, especially looking up to them growing up. Now I'm a part of it, a part with all these amazing musicians. We're having a blast up there, and just pushing the music forward as much as we can.
Well, I look to you as a role model, Sherry. I would love for you to teach me a little bit of jazz.
I will.
I mean, I feel like I got to get on the drum set with you.
I think you have to. Are you ready to learn how to play this instrument?
Ready as I'll ever be.
It's got you have to be like an octopus.
There's a lot
all
of,
four of your
yes,
limbs
a lot of
around.
multitasking is going to happen.
So the best way to hold a stick is between your thumb and your index finger, and then both hands just like that. In jazz music, one of the most important things that drummers play is something called a ride cymbal, and it's over here, and it even says ride on it. So that's where we play a majority of our beat. Okay. And the jazz beat, I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to make up lyrics for you, and it goes like this. Jazz, I like jazz, I like jazz, I like jazz. All right, so then we're gonna try to let the stick bounce like a ball. You're gonna play on the ride cymbal, and I'll just play over here. So it goes like this. Jazz, I like jazz, I like jazz, I like jazz.
That just got complicated, Sherry.
I like jazz. I like jazz. I like jazz.
I'm getting thumbs up from over there from the band members. Okay.
The only other drummer I've seen play with spectacular heels like that is the one and only fabulous Sheila E. And look at those. So I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm going to show you a beat now it's not jazz, but it's probably the most famous drum groove in the world.
Okay.
We Will Rock You.
Oh, I know that one.
And I know you had music lessons, so you know if I tell you to go 1 and 2 on the snare drum, two notes on the bass drum, 1 on the snare drum.
All right, like this.
We're good. Here we go. Yeah, I can feel rocking now. Yeah. I put jazz on top of it.
Now I just want to go like this.
Go ahead, do it. Solo.
But thank you so much, Sherry, for
You're
showing
welcome.
me how to drum and also just telling us all of the history behind the DIVA Jazz Orchestra.
Great pleasure.
For more, head to
DivaJazz.com.
divajazz.com.
All right.